Thank you. Good morning, all. My name is Kiki Hammonds, and I'm one of our National Curriculum Specialists. I actually live in Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States. So it's a pleasure to be here with you all. It is evening time for me, but good morning to you. I'm so glad to be here. We are going to jump in and take a look at the K through 8 Inspire Science. So hopefully you have your resources. If you have materials, I would ask you to go ahead and grab your teacher's edition, and we're going to go ahead and jump right in. These are the beautiful covers from our K-5 Inspire Science program. You see kindergarten through fifth grade here on the screen, and then these are our sixth, seventh, and eighth grade resources. So again, thank you so much for joining me. We are going to get started now and take a look at this program. The first thing I do want to share is that you do have digital access. Let me put all of these up on the screen. And I know that Laura is going to share these with you as well, perhaps in the chat or even later on. But if you don't have access to an online account, you can use what you see on my screen. Go ahead and snap a picture of that or screenshot or print your screen. If you have your cell phones with you, you can take a quick picture. But this is how you can get online for now if you don't yet have your own account. And I'll give you just a second to take that picture or to jot that down.
I will have this on the chat box as well.
Okay, perfect. And I'll keep moving and then you can get that off the chat box if you still need it. So Inspire Science is a program that is 100% digital, which means that all of those wonderful print pieces also live online for you. You can use them in print, you can use them online, or as you see on the screen, somewhere in between. You can have a book in your hand. You also can access them online, but from any device, a desktop, a laptop, Kindle Fire, Chromebook, even your phone, wherever you have access to Wi-Fi, you can log in and receive the resources. So as we think about an overview of the Inspire Science program, the first thing that I do want to share is that each student will have 4 unitized student editions. You have unit 1, 2, 3, and 4, and these are consumable texts. These are write-in text, and if your school purchased those resources, the students will have access to those print materials, and you'll notice on the right side of the screen, your students can log in to have access to the digital platform. Now notice what I've circled on the screen. Students have access to their student editions right up front on the dashboard as well. So they'll have print materials or digital materials or both, depending on what was purchased by your school. But again, these are unitized materials. So unit 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then teachers at grades K through 8 also have 4 unitized editions. You have 4 teachers editions, units 1, 2, 3, and 4. And also on the left side of my screen, you see that you have a digital experience, a digital platform with all of your planning materials, assessments, all the resources you could need, and you'll have access to that for your grade level as well. Now, as I mentioned, there are 4 units per grade level. And the units then break into modules, and the modules break into lessons. So at each grade level, it'll look something like this. For example, the module might be energy and motion. The module opener asks a big question, a big idea. What is energy? And underneath that module, you'll find lessons. Force and motion, speed and energy transfer. Now, these are 5E lessons. Perhaps you're familiar with that. I'll share what that means in just a second. But at the end of the module, we close the module with a project. You also will find there is a module wrap up that includes an assessment. So again, every grade level begins with the module opener. You work through 2 or 3, 4 lessons, depending on the content, and then you close the module with a project as well as a module assessment. Now I'm going to ask you if you have a teacher's edition to go ahead and grab your teacher's edition. If you don't have one, that's fine. I'm going to walk you through some pages and you can take a look at what's here. I'll give you just a second to grab that if you have one. And if not, we'll look at it together on my screen. As you open into your teacher's edition, the first thing that you'll see is your table of contents. And you'll notice that it points out the units, the module, the lessons. And in this case, we're looking at Unit 1, Forces and Energy. But as you turn into the module level, I'm going to ask you to locate this page in your teacher's edition. If you don't have a book, no worries. You can just look with me on my screen. But I want to point out to you how we begin the module instruction. This is called our 3D learning. As I blow this page up for you, look there on the left side of the screen. We have the science and engineering practices, the disciplinary core ideas, and the cross-cutting concepts. So the way that this can be explained to your students, those practices, those are things that scientists do, that students do as they're learning science. The disciplinary core ideas, those are the content pieces, the grade level content. And finally, the cross-cutting concepts, those are the big ideas. Where does this particular chapter or unit sit within the world of science? And in this case, you see it's part of the energy and motion big idea and cross-cutting concept. Now notice on the right side of the screen, the performance expectations. These are actually what students must do to show us that they are actually getting to mastery in this content. They're using evidence, they're relating the speed of an object to the energy of that object. And so it tells us exactly what we should look for in terms of the expectations we can have for our students in terms of science learning. Now, as you turn the page, if you have a book with you, you'll see that there is a module planner. Now, notice on my screen across the top, it lists the module, the lessons. Down the side of the page, it lists the pacing and opportunities for different resources and activities. You'll notice there is a pacing suggestion. Each lesson, or excuse me, each day is roughly a 45-minute lesson. If you don't have 45 minutes, we're going to talk about what you can do in terms of changing the pacing. But I want you to notice that there is information about that module opener. You'll also see information about the lessons, information about the inquiry activities, and finally at the bottom of the page, you'll see information about the assessments available in the module. So if you have your teacher's edition and you're looking at that module planner, this is a wonderful way to plan and get ready for your module learning. But turn one more page with me if you have a book and notice the inquiry activity planner. This is how you plan those hands-on activities that students have access to within the module. As we blow this up a little bit, you'll see that it points out the time frame as well as the materials that are needed for these hands-on activities. This will help you make decisions about how much time to spend, the resources you need to have in your classroom, and which of these activities you'd actually like your students to engage with. Turn one more page and you'll see the differentiation options. Approaching level, on level, beyond level. Information for how to use this program with different level learners, as well as inspiring students for whom this language is not their first. So perhaps you have students that speak other languages, and you'll see that there is language support with vocabulary, language building resources, and you'll find this at the module level as well. As we continue into the module and take a look at what's available for you at the module level, you'll notice at grades 2 through 8, there is a formative assessment, which we call the module pretest. Now notice on my screen, it can be in paper and pencil on the right, or it can also be available to you digitally. So again, grades 2 through 8, you do have a pretest if you choose to use that. I'll show you exactly where it's located. We'll locate that online. You can print that off as well as assign it to your students digitally. And as we begin to look at the module opener and the way the module opens, you'll see that we are encountering a phenomenon, which means we are sharing a phenomenon with our students. They're going to encounter that phenomenon. They're going to be asked a question, given an opportunity to talk about it, collaborate, think about that. You'll see the big idea or that big idea question. And on the Teacher's Edition page, you'll notice that it points out exactly what your students will see there in the center of the screen. It also points out for you the digital resources that you have access to. So right up front, you'll know what your students are looking at in their book, as well as where you can go online. When you go online at the module level, you'll see that there are STEM connections, storylines, the module pretest that I mentioned, and much more. We're going to take a look at that when we log in just a second. But the online resources are connected to the module learning. It points out in the Teacher's Edition when you could choose to go online with students. Now, each module has a video. Our module phenomenon videos are silent. There's no sound. It's just an opportunity for students to observe the phenomenon. Again, these are silent phenomenon videos, giving students a chance to observe the phenomenon, think about that big idea as they're focused on the content of that module. And then we introduce students to that STEM project. Now, at kindergarten and first grade, you're going to see a project that comes at the end of your module. You won't talk about it at the beginning. You'll introduce it to them once they've finished all the instruction of the module. But at grades 2 through 8, you'll notice in your student edition, the project is introduced to your students right at the beginning of the module. After lesson 1, you'll work on the project, after lesson 2, and then after lesson 3. Maybe you have 4 lessons or 5 lessons, you'll continue to work on that project. But the STEM career connection allows students to be able to think like engineers and scientists do. In this case, students are designing a roller coaster. So they're given opportunity to think about how force and motion works together to create the movement of a roller coaster. And here's an example of what that might look like. So again, the project is found in the student edition as well as located online. So you'll notice on my screen on the right, the STEM module project is available right up front online, and I'm going to show you exactly where that is. Students have access to that. They can locate the resources needed. There is a rubric. There's information for them to learn more about the project, and you'll see that online. So your module resources online, there is a file cabinet, if you will, or a set of files for you to use as you're locating the module resources. So we're going to jump online and I'm going to show you what that looks like. But Laura, let me ask, are there any questions for me?
No questions at the moment, Kiki.
Okay. So as you see on the screen, this is the dashboard for Inspire Science. No matter which grade level you log into, and I'm actually in 3rd grade, but you'll see that you have the same look right in the center of the screen. You'll notice your teacher's editions, all 4 of those units. You'll also notice your student editions, interactive editions are available here. But what I want to call your attention to is where to locate the module materials. The most important button that you have here on your dashboard is the one that says Browse this course. So when you log into your materials and you log into the resources, the first thing you're going to do is click Browse this course. It brings you to a table of contents. Notice on the left side of the screen, all the modules are laid out there together. And if I want to locate those module materials, all I have to do is click the module that I've chosen. It brings me to all the files that are available for the module. Now notice on my screen, I have planning resources, the module opener. Here's the STEM project. I can also see the module wrap up, the assessment, and even a module library. So as you open each of these files, there's an interactive presentation. Here's that module pretest. As I continue to scroll down, I can locate the STEM project. Here's a plan. Here's a rubric for the project. As you continue to look at those files, here's the module assessment. You'll see a module test, and we'll talk about assessments in just a second. You'll see those in just a bit. And then finally, the module library provides additional videos, simulations, interactive resources that you could choose to use with your students. So one more time, as we go back to the home screen, to the dashboard there, the most important tab on the screen is sitting here at the top, Browse this course. So if you're taking notes, and I hope you are, write this down. You click Browse this course. It'll bring you to your table of contents there on the left. You choose the module that you're interested in looking at, and once you've chosen that, it brings you to the opportunity to click the module, and you have all the files that you need to plan your module. So any questions, any comments before we move on to our lesson model?
No, we're good.
Okay. So once we move past the module into the lesson model is very specific. We have that 5E structure, and probably you're familiar with that, but the 5E lesson model includes engage, explore, explain, elaborate, and evaluate. You'll see this at grade K, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way through grade 8. And the 5E lesson model is what we call the constructivist model, which means that we are scaffolding or constructing knowledge on top of what our students already know. We find out what they know, we want to know what they think, and they're going to collaborate together, and then we begin to teach them on top of the information that they've already learned. So as you look at that 5E model, the very first thing that's going to happen is we have to assess prior knowledge. That means we have to find out what they already know as they're coming into this lesson. So as you look in your teacher's edition, if you have one with you, you'll notice on the right side of my screen, the first thing that happens in a lesson is we assess prior knowledge. We do this with something called a Page-Keeley science probe. So the science probe is an opportunity to ask questions of our students to find out what they know. Paige Keeley is one of our authors, and she uses real-world phenomenon to reveal misconceptions that your students may have developed. You'll revisit this probe again later in the lesson to find out how students are growing in their knowledge, but this is actually found in the student edition. And this is a question that we ask students. It's a conversation that we can have with students. So let's take a look at this one. 3 friends were playing with their toy cars. Betty crashed her car into Alonzo's car. They each had different ideas about what was transferred during the crash. Here's what they said. Which one do you agree with? Betty says, I think the force from my car was transferred to your car. Alonzo says, I think the energy from your car was transferred to my car. And Gus says, I think both force and energy were transferred from Betty's car to Alonzo's car. So we would ask our students, who do you agree with? And then why? We want to know what they think is true, what they know or don't know before we move into this lesson about force and motion. Now you can meet with your students. Perhaps they can raise hands and talk about what they've seen. Maybe you create a bar graph and students take a vote. They use a Post-it note or some way to take a vote. Maybe you use science notebooks and allow students to write their thoughts. But the goal here is to find out what students already know about this content. Now you see online there is teacher support. There are videos from our author, Paige Keeley. There is information for you about how to use this resource as you're gathering that formative assessment to get to know more about your students. So the Paige Keeley probe is in every single lesson, every single grade level, and it's the very first thing that happens as you begin your lesson. Now, as we look at the files that are available for you in the lesson resources, notice the science probe is the very first thing that you'll see. Now, in just a bit, we're going to go online and take a look at that. But notice on my screen, the science probe has its own file. We can open that right up. The resources are there for the probe. But if you have your teacher's edition with you, turn one more page with me, or you can just look online, and you'll notice that there is a lesson at a glance. This is information and suggestions for you about pacing, about planning. And you'll notice that we offer some choices. There's a full track, 45 minutes a day. There is a flex track that is 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. There's another flex track that is 3 days per week. And we even have a brand new planning piece, which is 60 minutes per week. So think about which one of these might fit best into your schedule, fit best with your classroom. Is it 45 minutes a day? Is it 30 minutes a day? Is it 60 minutes per week? And that essential lesson planning, that 60-minute time frame, is actually located online. And it looks like this. It's already prepared for you. It's already available. It gives you options for how to use your time, which you might do with some extra time. So as you think about the planning and the pacing, there are several different ways that you can use your time with Inspire Science. Now, the first phase of the lesson is to engage our students. If you have your teacher's edition, turn a page, and you'll notice at the top of your page, it calls out the engage part of the lesson. Now, in the engage part of the lesson, we are engaging our students in the content. We ask a question, they encounter that phenomenon question. As you see here on my screen, why are some of the skydivers falling faster than others, we ask. And then there is another opportunity to watch a phenomenon video. Again, these are silent, no sound. We're actually just watching and observing that phenomenon. And this part of the lesson is engaging and getting our students interested in the content they're going to see in this lesson. Now, when we go online, you will see an opportunity to find all of the resources for Engage found in the Engage file. So again, we had our lesson probe, the science probe, and now we have the Engage file. Moving into the next phase, we move into the Explore phase of the lesson. In the Explore phase, students are going to explore. This is where you'll find those hands-on activities. As you turn a page in the teacher's edition, you'll notice that it points out the activity, that inquiry activity, where students have hands-on resources, materials, they're exploring, they're finding out more information. This is how it might look in your student edition. Notice it's always trimmed in yellow, and in this case, students are engaging in a hands-on activity. The materials are available. It tells us we need a golf ball and a tennis table ball, and perhaps you're going to be doing this activity with students in a small group or even in a whole group. But you'll notice in the teacher's edition, there is additional opportunity to go online. Maybe you want to show a video about the activity, or perhaps as a teacher, you want to watch the activity to see how it's supposed to look. The rewind video walks students through the activities step by step. It's perfect for students who have been absent or perhaps don't have the background information that they might need for this activity. So again, the support videos are available to you online. Available to you online, and it gives your students a chance to watch the activity, and it gives teachers a chance also to see how the activity could look. I'll show you exactly what this looks like online. We'll find these videos. The other thing you're going to see in the Explore phase at each grade level is claim, evidence, reasoning. As students work through an investigation, we want them to acquire the skills to make a claim, to learn how to add evidence, and then provide reasoning. And this is known as CER. This is a strategy that we use to teach students how to construct and craft scientific arguments. It's a great structure that supports students in their exploration. We start this as early as kindergarten and help students get to know this process. And by middle school, of course, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, they'll be doing this more often. But they're making a claim. They're focused on the evidence that supports that claim, and then the reasoning as well. Now, with grades 6, 7, and 8, you're going to find some virtual labs. These are things that students can watch and engage with online. They can take notes. They can actually use the digital resource to see the lab and also collect information about that. You'll see that there are roughly 74 virtual labs in grades 6, 7, and 8. Now, at all grade levels, we can engage with multimedia. You'll see that there are videos, simulations, opportunities for students to watch activities available online. You'll see explorations that perhaps you wouldn't want to do in the classroom. For example, here on the left side of the screen at the bottom, this is a Bunsen burner at a very high rate of heat. You might not want to do that in your classroom. But all of these digital simulations and explorations will be located in your teacher's edition, but also online in the Explore Blade. the Explore file. Moving to the next phase, we're moving into the Explain. Students have had a chance to encounter the phenomenon. They've been engaged. They've explored a bit, and now we're moving in to the Explain phase. In your teacher's edition, it will call out the Explain phase. You'll see that there at the top of your page. But your students will be using their student edition to read or to listen to content. Through the Explain step, students deepen their understanding of core science topics. Vocabulary words are listed here in the student edition. Those are highlighted and in context and throughout the text. This is where we'll also find opportunities for close reading, inspecting the information, finding evidence, making connections. And also you'll find additional digital simulations. Notice here on the screen, this is one that is available. Inspire Science includes something called foldables. And you might be familiar with this. Dinah Zeich is one of our contributing authors, and she has created these kinesthetic note takers, a way for students to fold and create flip books and other ways to take notes as they're collecting information about vocabulary and context. And you'll find these available to you online. You can print these off for students, and these fit right into science notebooks if your students are currently using the science notebooking. Grades K-5, you're going to find vocabulary photo cards if you choose to use them. But all of this fits beautifully into an interactive notebook if you choose to use those. And there are even videos, professional development videos, to help teachers get to know a little bit more about how to use those foldables. Now, with this part of the lesson also, you might find opportunity for literacy integration. We have science read-alouds at K1, investigator articles at 2 through 5, and differentiated readers for all grade levels. Now, these are available in print if your school chose to purchase them, but all of these materials available to you digitally. Now, at grades 6 through 8, our differentiation comes in the form of something called Reading Essentials. Now, notice on the left side of my screen, this is on grade level. The reading is pretty hefty, but notice on the right side of the screen, the Reading Essential has taken that Lexile and brought it down up to 2 grade levels lower. So this is something that is available in print as well as digital, and this is something that you can share with students to bring the Lexile reading level to an area that students can actually access that if they're struggling with the reading. It provides vocabulary support as well as slows down the content a bit because it does bring that Lexile level down. And this is available at grades 6, 7, and 8. And again, it's called the Reading Essentials. Now, the Reading Essentials are found online, and we'll take a look at those in just a bit. They're located in the Explain area of the lesson. So as we look at these blades, these files, and we're going to go online in just a bit and take a peek at that, but notice the Explain has its very own file, and all of those resources are available there for your students. So let me pause before we continue. We've gone through the Engage, the Explore, the Explain. Laura, are there any questions for me?
No questions so far.
Okay. Moving into the next phase, we're moving into the elaborate phase. Now, this is where we want students to be thinking about the next steps. What will they do with this information? What makes this so important to them? How will they use what they're learning? And this is where we bring in the STEM connections. We talk about careers and hobbies and things that students like to do. Notice on the left side of my screen, it's available in the student edition. It's also available to your students digitally, but this gives our students a chance to think like scientists do. What kind of career would you like? What kind of things do you like to do? Do you like to paint or cook or sew? All of that uses science content. So you'll see its real world application as well as STEM careers. Students are introduced to a variety of STEM hobbies and careers through this STEM connection. Resources are found in their student edition. There's information online, additional things to read, additional ways to connect and see the content there, and all of this available in the Elaborate file online. And again, we're going to go online and look at all of this in just a bit. But the final phase of the lesson is to evaluate. Every single lesson offers an opportunity to check in with a lesson review. So as you look at the teacher's edition there on my screen, here's the student edition page. Notice we are now explaining the phenomenon. We're actually revisiting that Page-Keeley probe. Remember at the beginning of the lesson, we asked students a question. We asked them about the probe. And now we're going to come back again and see if their thinking has changed. Betty, Alonzo, Gus, has your thinking changed about what you thought was the true answer a little while ago? The correct answer was Gus. So students would have an opportunity to make a change if they wanted to focus on what they've learned or what they know about that. So perhaps at the beginning of the lesson, here's a bar graph that perhaps students have voted on their answer, but notice what happens a couple weeks later. The answers change based on the learning that's taken place. Now, every single lesson ends with that lesson review. You'll see that there are some assessments already created for you. These are available online as well as available to you in print. So every single lesson, every grade level has an online assessment as well as a print assessment. Now at grades 6, 7, and 8, we have something called Learn Smart. This is actually a diagnostic assessment, a study tool that adapts to your students' performance. It gives students a chance to read and highlight content that they're seeing within the chapter, and then it creates questions for our students, individualized and customized for their abilities. So students will actually click into those questions, they can read about those, or they can jump into the learning. Notice they're answering the questions. It allows them to move forward if they get the question correct. It asks them to go back and reread if they missed that question. But this is a study tool. This is not an assessment. This is a way to diagnostically help students as they're moving forward with the content. It highlights the information they need to know. And this is something that you can assign from the digital platform. Again, it's available at grades 6, 7, and 8. So Learn Smart and Smart Book, as we call it, is available to you in your module library. Again, grades 6, 7, and 8, you have access to this Learn Smart study tool resource. And all of those evaluate pieces located in the evaluate file. So here's an overview. We have the module launch, which includes a pretest, the project. We're encountering a phenomenon. You have the lessons with the Page-Keeley probe and the 5 steps or the 5 phases of the lesson. And finally, at the end of the module, we revisit that phenomenon, we complete the STEM project, and if you choose, there is a module assessment. So let's go online and take a look at what that's going to look like at the lesson level. So I'm online on my dashboard. And as I come back to the dashboard, remember the most important tab that you have is the Browse This Course tab. When I choose that, it brings me to a table of contents. We've already looked at the module, so this time we're going to click into the lesson. And as you do that, it brings you to all the files that are available for you for the lesson level. Here are my planning materials, the teacher's edition, additional resources. As you scroll down, here is that Page-Keeley probe. It includes an interactive resource as well as some additional materials. And then we begin to move into the 5 E's of the lesson, that 5E model, the engage phase. Here's the interactive presentation. You can assign that to students using that Assign tab. As you continue to scroll, you'll see the explore phase. Here's your inquiry activity. Here's one of those rewind videos. It allows students to see exactly what they could do with the activity. The explain phase, which is where you see another interactive presentation, read about it opportunities. You'll see the vocabulary is here as well as the foldables. And here's where you'll find those differentiated readers. Remember, the explain phase is where students are going to learn more about the content. So there's more resources for them to read and to learn from. Here's the reading essentials. Moving into the elaborate phase. This is where you're going to find that STEM connection, as well as an additional hands-on activity. And finally, the evaluate phase provides an interactive presentation, the project plan for your module project. But again, here are your assessments. The end of the lesson has a lesson assessment if you choose to use it. Notice that this assessment can be assigned to students. That would be a digital assessment. This one that says PDF gives me an opportunity to download or assign. And then, of course, I have my answer key. There's even a vocabulary check if you choose to use that, as well as vocabulary flashcards. So lots of good resources. Let me scroll all the way back up to the top. And you'll see that you have all of those lesson materials in their files. But I want to show you one other thing. As we scroll to the bottom of this resource, notice you have a lesson library. Now, the lesson library is where you'll find additional things to use. Additional videos, simulations, additional interactive resources. Lots of different things that you can choose to pull into your lesson. Any questions about the lesson materials?
No, not at the moment.
Okay. So as we move into the assessment part, we'll talk about the assessments that are available. Remember, we saw the lesson assessment. There is an assessment at the end of the module, but in Inspire Science, we have 3 different levels of assessment, a versatile suite of options. You're going to see that there are diagnostic assessments, formative assessments, which means we are forming instruction and forming opportunities, and finally, the summative assessments. We have lesson reviews, talk about it, inquiry activities, projects, but there is also a 3-dimensional assessment guide, which we'll look at. Your assessments are available to you in print. They're also available to you digitally. So you can print off what your students are going to be doing in the assessment. You can recreate. They're editable. It's opportunity to modify and make changes. You can create your own assessment if you'd like. So lots of different ways to create and to customize the assessments for students. As mentioned, there is that STEM project. You'll see rubrics available to help students with their project as well as teacher assessment there. And here's an example of an online activity, online assessment. We have drag and drop questions. We have fill in the blank questions, multiple choice, all sorts of different ways for students to show us what they know. Now, these have already been created for you, and you can also create your own. You can customize the assessments, you can make new assessments, or even modify the ones that we've created. Now, if students take the assessment online, those will be graded for you, and that data will be put into our reporting system. You'll notice there are class reports, student reports, all sorts of ways to collect the data and use that to help drive your instruction. You'll see that we have a performance report, the student performance, and even a standards performance report. So now that we've gone through the content, you've looked at the module, you've looked at the lessons, let's spend the last few minutes together looking at the digital resources. I'm going to put this slide back up on the screen. I know Laura also shared the login with you, but if you didn't have a chance to grab that, you can grab the login here from the screen. And if you're able to and want to log in, or you can just follow along, But I want to show you a couple things in terms of where some of these resources are located. You'll notice on my screen, this is the dashboard, and I actually am logged into third grade. It doesn't matter which grade, they all are going to have this same look. But the most important button, as we've said a couple times, is the Browse This Course. That's where your table of contents is found, all your materials. But notice on the left side of my screen, you have a submenu. You have dashboard, calendar, assessments, roster, all sorts of things to look at. And the first thing that we're going to click into actually is going to be the roster. Your students, if your students have access, will be dropped into the system. So as we choose the roster, and here are the students that are in my pretend class, but I can actually emulate the student. I'm going to show you what the students see when they log in. If your students have digital access and they have their own account, when they log into Inspire Science, they're actually going to see a dashboard that looks like this. Notice it has a to-do column. This is where all the assignments that you've created will be sitting. You'll notice that their student additions are available here for them. And you can see the past work or additional lessons. So students have all sorts of access to their materials as well as assignments if you choose to share those digitally. The other thing I'd like you to take a look at when you have an opportunity are the assessments. This is going to be on the left side of the screen, almost to the bottom of the screen. And as we click into assessments, this is where all of the assessments for your grade level will be located. You'll notice I'm in grade 3, and these are all of the units and modules here. So let's look at this animals. When we click into that animals module, it actually brings me to the module pretest, the lesson checks, as well as the module test. Now I can click on one of these items to actually see the questions. And notice these are the questions that are going to be on that assessment. But I can also edit or print or even share this assessment. So as we move out to the right side of my screen, we have actions there, and the options are to preview as a student, to edit the assessment, to assign it to students, or to print. So if I want to edit the assessment, I would choose edit. It will bring me to an opportunity to make changes to each and every question in that assessment. If you make a change, it's going to require that you rename that, you save it differently, but the opportunity is there for you to customize and modify every single question, every single assessment. You can change the font, you can add graphics, lots of different ways to customize the instruction. All right, any questions about the digital space or how to use the online resources?
We don't have a question, but Jessa just waved. So, Jessa, do you have a question? Or is it just a wave? Uh,
Okay, you can let me know, Laura.
yeah, sure.
I wanted to share also, there is a teacher community. There's an opportunity for you to connect with teachers all over the world who are currently using Inspire Science. There is an Inspire Science teacher community. You can join that for free, of course, but it gives you a chance to connect and watch videos and join inspirational discussion boards and find out all sorts of things about the Inspire Science program. I'm going to put this QR code up on the screen if you'd like to snap a quick picture of that. I'll also show you where else you can go to locate the community. And this is a place that you can actually get to ask questions of our authorship team, or maybe you want to connect with teachers on the other side of the world and find out what they're doing in their classrooms. So it's a fun way to connect with the Inspire Science community. So as we finish today, are there any questions, any Q&A, anything you want to know more about,
Uh,
any exciting thoughts?
Not really question, but Marie did say that she's amazed to the many available resources for teachers that we have. Yeah, for
Good, good. Yeah, it is amazing. There's so much here, and you'll never be able to do all of it every day, every time, every child, every year. But it's so much fun that you get to choose the items that you want to choose and use the resources that will work for your students. All right. Well, thank you so much, guys. It has been a pleasure to share this program with you. We are thrilled that you are using Inspire Science. Please let us know if you have additional questions. Go ahead and log in and try it out and have a great school year.
Thank you so much, Kiki.
Thank
Just
you.
a quick reminder before we end things. If you register today, you are going to receive a recording link via email within a week or so. If you do have any remaining questions, do drop me a message or an email with your questions. We can still address those. Don't forget to check out the Back to School webpage. You can find blogs, upcoming webinars, and just product resources in there as well. And you are welcome to share all of these with your colleagues or whoever that might benefit from all these resources. Thanks again, Kiki, and we wish all of you the a best back to school preparation and have a good day.